I will talk about something I talked about my therapist yesterday. I'm not a therapist, psychologist. I'm gonna talk about if I think that suicide is actually like a real thing, or like if it's a natural response, or if it's like in learned behavior. I don't know why I thought about it for a while. I've been reading the book The Savage God and the Study of Suicide. I'm not done with it. I'm only like 20 pages in, so if you have read it, don't spoil it to me. But basically, that's something I thought about a lot. As someone who has struggled with suicidal tendencies, I constantly thought about it. Like, is this a natural response to stress? Is it a natural response to crisis? Or is it just like something I learned about and my brain just kind of stuck with? Same thing with like self harm. Is it like a natural thing that people can do? Like I thought about like imagine if someone was like isolated from the entire world, like from other people, and like not isolated, but isolated from the idea that suicide exists, or isolated from the idea that self harm exists. Would they still be able to do it when they feel bad? Would they do it, or would they just not even think about this as possibility? You get what I mean? Because if we look like at animals and we look at our like natural um, instincts, the instinct is never to harm yourself, and it's never to try to kill yourself despite anything. But somehow we manage to do it, and so many people actually do it. It's kind of insane. And then when you think about like if it's not a natural response, then what is it? Why do so many people do it? Because again, if it is a learned behavior, then like how come so many people do it? It's just kind of insane. And it's kind of like then I try to think about like other things like this kind of and thought about addictions. Like we tend to say that like addiction is a like an illness, like a sickness, but is it really? Is it like, and also people call it like a gene, like that people can have like addiction genes, that if your dad's the addict, you're gonna be an addict too. But is that actually true? And I try to think about like like human history, how it even came to be that we became addicted. And I thought about like, oh, we had a lot of alcohol back in like ancient Greece, and we had a lot of alcohol in the Middle um, Ages. But is it that we used to not be able to be addicted, and it just kind of like evolved into this kind of like gene thing? Because we had like multiple crises, or like multiple addiction epidemics. So did it like happen like this, or is it like a learned behavior that we just kind of kept drinking or kept using drugs, and we kind of saw each other do it, and we just kept doing it until it became this kind of like sort of like a social mental disorder that we can't stop because it's so engraved in our society? Or is it natural gene that we have that can like determine if you can become an addict or not? Again, I'm not like a doctor, so obviously maybe I don't know stuff, but it's just like a thought that I had. Back to suicide. So I kept thinking, and when I was talking to a psychiatrist, he told me that like basically a lot of people who say they want to die, they don't actually want to die. A lot of people who choose to try to commit suicide don't actually choose the method that will like actually murder you. A lot of people choose methods they can actually like kind of survive. For example, like overdose. You can't survive overdose if you like try to dose it. If you look, okay, wait, that sounds fucking stupid right now. But like, what I'm trying to say is that, for example, overdoses, you can get the effect of overdose without dying. Like you can try to search about it. You can search how many pills you have to take in order to achieve, for example, the shakiness and the nausea and everything without actually dying, without causing too much harm, and then do it to try and prove that you feel bad. If you get what I mean, I'm trying to explain this so like carefully because I don't want you guys to misunderstand me. Or like for example, like cutting yourself, like you can survive it if you do it right. You don't yeah you don't always die from it. Even if you cut a lot, you're not gonna die from it. And you can, but it's like 50-50 chance. And it's like not a lot of people actually choose the options that like you can't survive from, like for example from jumping from a tall building or shooting yourself. This kind of things happens a lot rarely, and it's yeah. So basically a lot of suicidal people are not actually suicidal, but they just kind of, I feel like those kind of people kind of romanticize death. And by romanticizing, I don't mean that they just kind of want to be edgy or they want to be cool by doing it, because obviously I'm not going to sit here and say that, like, oh, well, uh, you're just trying to get attention, because I mean, I think it's true, but I think there's a deeper meaning to it. I'm not trying to victim blame here, okay? I'm not trying to say that victims of like suicide attempts or like horrible people or liars. That is not what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say that um, the suicide topic is so much broader than we think. I feel like we look at it as just like action and consequence, but we don't look about the deeper psychological effect behind it. We don't look about how a person can be pushed to it, or um, how it even affects the brain, or if there is even effect in the brain. Because again, we look addiction. We say that there's a gene to addiction. Is there like a gene to suicide? Because not every single person that goes through crisis chooses suicide. But again, it's such a broad like problem. There must be like something behind it. Um, and because it just breaks everything that we have in our nature to survive and everything. So it's just such an interesting thing to me to try to think about it, like why and how it can happen. I don't want to look at it just action consequence. I want to look at it like I want to look behind it, and what happens before you do it and after you survive it. Like how does it affect you? How and again why you can even be pushed to it. Um, Another thing is God, but I want to try to fuck. I forgot what to say. Basically, a lot of people who say they want to die, don't actually want to die, and they themselves know it. I knew that I didn't want to die. Still, I was really, really suicidal. But the reason I was suicidal is just because my life was so shit and I saw no lights in the dark, that I was just thinking to myself, well, I might as well just die. But I didn't actually want to die, and I feel like a lot of people feel the same way. I feel like a lot of people just romanticize death as just like kind of escape from everything. I feel like people look at death as this like kind of hole that you can crawl into and hide yourself from everything bad and never get out of. And I feel like a lot of suicidal people forget what death actually is, and they forget that it's not this kind of like escape, and it's not this kind of like again, not kind of this like comfortable box that you can hide in and then get out of. It's actually the end of life. And I feel like because of suicide, I feel like suicide in itself, it's really hard to describe and it's really hard to categorize. I feel like also the reason suicidal people feel the way they do is because again they can forget what death is. When I was at the peak of my suicidal like ideas, I I kind of forgot that it's like permanent. I don't know how to explain it. Like I just kind of I forgot why I was scared of death in the first place, and I kind of forgot that life actually continues. I don't know. It's really hard to explain it really, but I feel like suicide is this kind of. I feel like our brain goes into this kind of like crisis where it just feels so trapped and it feels so horrible that kind of turns off this kind of like critical thinking and turns off this kind of like thoughts about that there's life continuing, because it's again it's so hard to explain. Basically, I feel like there's just something that happens sometimes in us where our brain just kind of like turns off this kind of critical thinking and thinking about like I feel like we just go into this like prolonged panic mode, and we just feel so tired and we just don't see anything. Like we literally don't see the future. That our brain just kind of forgets what death actually is, and we just want to kind of go in a coma basically, or something like that. I don't know. But it's such a fascinating topic to me. I think I feel like we're just so we don't think about it enough. I feel like again we look at this as action consequence and we don't look behind it, and also thought about what happens when you survive suicide. Like what happens after that? What do you do with your life after this when you tried and you failed? And what I found is that like when I read about people who try to commit suicide and survive, like in this book that I'm reading, like Sylvia Plath, she tried to commit suicide by she basically took her like husband's car and she drove into a tree, but she survived. And basically what just happened is like her fear of death just kind of like became even less than before, because she actually experienced it what it's like to actually try to kill yourself, and she wasn't scared. and so it kind of made her even less scared of death. And I think it's so fascinating because when you think about it, if any other animal were to um, nearly die and survive, they would just cherish life more. But it didn't happen with her. She just cherished it even less. And I don't know, I just keep thinking about it, and I just keep thinking about how our brains can even function like this. All right, I'm gonna end the video soon because it's getting too long. But basically, you understand my point. I just feel like we don't talk about it enough. We don't talk about like our mental health enough. I feel like like I study psychology, and what I notice is that we just don't know anything about our brains, and we don't know anything about our behavior, basically. Um, so I just thought that it's kind of interesting the way our brains are kind of like this the way they are, because again, if we look at any other animal, they would never try to harm themselves, or they would never try to commit suicide, but somehow we do it, and even after we fail, we don't become more scared of death. We become more like fascinated with it and keep trying, or like some people keep trying, some don't. But yeah, I don't know, I thought it's really interesting, and I keep thinking if it's like a natural response, if there's like a gene to it, if there is something in our brains that happens before we decide to commit suicide, if there's like some kind of alteration in our like uh, chemicals or something that makes us view death differently, or if it's like there's this learned behavior that we like see other people, we know that other people can do it, and we just kind of have this back thought, this might be the escape because other people do it, so like maybe it's the way. I don't know.